Good morning and welcome to Southern Maine Healthcare's Medically Speaking. I'm your host, Robert Erickson, and for the next 30 minutes, you'll hear about medical issues and topics of the day directly from leading medical professionals at Southern Maine Healthcare. My guest today is Rebecca Sevigney, a Certified Childbirth Educator from SMHC's Birthing Suite. Our topic today is car seat safety for infants. Rebecca, thank you for joining us today.
Very happy to be here.
We usually start off the show by asking our guest how they got into medicine, and maybe you could tell us about your journey into healthcare and being a childbirth educator.
I just kind of got into it just by going to childbirth classes myself and enjoying that. My mentor was Norma Karen. She was a nurse here locally in town, and she taught for about 18 years here before moving to California. And then just kind of went from there. We were teaching twice a week, 4 hours a night, and it's kind of evolved from there. And love what I do, and I've been at it now for 25 years.
25 years here at Southern Maine Healthcare?
For this community, because in the beginning it used to be through adult ed.
What was the process back then for getting information about childbirth education?
I think the process was through the doctor's offices. It was very big back in the 80s and 90s to be going to childbirth classes, but not so much these days, although the process hasn't really changed and people really benefit from taking a class.
So when you say it used to be big, I assume you're talking about Lamaze classes and things like that. What's changed over time where maybe people aren't searching out childbirth education classes as much as they used to?
I think the internet has a lot to do with it. People can look at their own resources, and it's good to have your own belief systems, but it's also good to know what your body's doing too.
What would you say to a young parent who maybe is reluctant to take the classes, looking things up on the internet? What can you offer that maybe they can't find on the internet?
I think just the personal touch and stories of other people's process and how to keep an open mind. You don't hear that on the internet. It's this way or that way. And, everybody's different. Every birth is different. Every journey is different. Every person is different.
So, Rebecca, when you chose this profession, what was your particular interest in getting into this field?
I just think helping women through the birth process. I personally was scared. My mother didn't talk to me a whole lot about things, but nor did her mother talk to her about a lot of things. And there's nothing wrong with the value of a word and a thought and a hug and just letting people know what's going on.
So what sort of classes are offered here at Southern Maine Healthcare?
Southern Maine Healthcare offers an infant safety and CPR class. It's never too late or too early to take a CPR class. It's life-saving regardless. American Heart offers a great program for friends and family, so it's for lay people. You don't need to have a lot of medical experience. That's a great class to take. We have a Safe Travels car seat class and informing families on how to help install their car seats, why car seats are so important. It's good to be able to relay back to family members because some of us rode in the back of pickup trucks, in the back of the station wagon, or up in the back window, and that's not how it goes these days. And with so many more distracted drivers, older people and younger people driving, car seat safety is huge.
So let's talk a little bit about car seat safety. Obviously, things have changed for people who had children 20, 30, 40 years ago. The whole subject was different, and the science of it has changed. What's changed the most about car seat safety, and why is it so important?
It's so important because, cars now are made to be more crash-friendly, if you could say that in some ways, because of the crumple zones and things like that to keep the passengers safer. But with that in mind, too, these little babies and children, all of us, we really should have our seatbelts on. Nothing's like flying through the air. You only do it once, and then you have wings of your own. But overall, keeping your baby safe and riding in a safe position, protecting their head, neck, and spine for newborns up to age 2 or even older. In Europe, they keep their children backwards much longer than we keep our children backwards here. Standards are different in America. It's not a bad, but they're always better.
So what's the science behind it, and why do we install car seats backwards?
It's necessary to put baby car seats in rear facing because in the event of a crash, it's protecting their head, neck, and spine so that the whiplash effect isn't there. It's quite scary to think about what can happen to this. Largest part of a baby is their head. and it's the heaviest part. So in a crash, it's going to move. And if it moves forward too far, the whiplash can be quite severe and cause death or paralysis. Riding backwards, you have that one flow of the crash from the top of their head to the bottom of their spine, and therefore that effect isn't as great.
So let's say I'm a young parent and suddenly have a baby, haven't thought about the car seat. Why don't you walk us through the process of working with the car seat?
At discharge here at the hospital, we try to meet with most families. Having their car seat present is very helpful. Mr. Ira Rosenberg donated a dial-a-belt, which is a simulator seat for us to be able to use and show parents correct install. It has many different lap belt anchors and shoulder belt anchors and the lower anchors that different vehicles can have. Not everyone has a brand new car, so all the different features through the years have changed. We try to help them install that base properly so that they know that it needs to be level and secure, because that's what's going to hold the infant seat into the car. And once it's snapped in correctly, hopefully the child's in the seat correctly, then we go through that process of having the harness over their shoulders, their chest clip being in the proper position, how snug they should be, how to support their heads, and what not to wear and put into a car seat. Because many people think they have to overheat their babies because we live in Maine and it's cold, and blankets do just great.
So what do you advise parents, new parents, to do in terms of the snowsuits and the blankets and such?
We tell them snowsuits are not recommended by any means, because you don't want this harness straps to sit on the snowsuit. You want the harness to sit on the child. So wearing nothing heavier than their clothes, maybe a sweatshirt, Polo-Tech, or sweater, thinner fabric so that the harness sits closer to the child versus sitting on a big fluffy snowsuit will help, because once the crash happens, if it should happen, the impact is going to have a moving spot, and with that compression value of a puffy snowsuit is probably 1 inch per side, and that's 2 inches total.
Now, I personally have seen a new car seat and was kind of amazed at how different they are, how much more complicated things have gotten over the last 20 years.
Right. Directions now, though, are very user-friendly, so highly encourage everyone to read their manuals to both their vehicles and their car seat, and then just kind of follow through in what it's trying to tell you. And if you have questions or concerns, call someone that knows what they're doing. Some local fire departments, some local police departments have certified technicians. They have safety checkup events through Safe Kids. Bureau of Highway Safety has a program. There are lots of resources out there if they don't know.
Now, it seems car seats now are more complicated. There are seats that actually snap in and out of the harness. Is there a particular kind of car seat that's better than another?
No. All car seats, the best car seat is the car seat that you're using correctly, fits your vehicle, and fits your baby.
Now, if you're a young parent, at what age does the child start facing forward? Can you walk us through that?
Facing forward really should not happen until they're at least 2 or the upper weight of a rear-facing car seat. So again, the longer you can keep them backwards, the better. Children don't know how to ride forward until they've done so. So that statement of "my kids hate riding backwards" is just more of the parent having issues with the child being backwards, because children don't know the difference. They've always ridden rear-facing from the beginning. A lot of people are concerned about legs hitting the back seat of a vehicle because they're getting tall. Again, the whole point is to protect head, neck, and spine. So if that head is below the top of that car seat and they're within the weight and height limit of that car seat, that is still the best way to ride, rear-facing.
Now, obviously, you hear concerns from young parents. What are the major concerns that people have with regards to young babies in car seats?
One is not being able to see them if they're backwards, so they all feel that they have to be able to watch them. But if they're properly installed in that seat, they are safe. Addressing them when issues happen, please always know to pull over before you lean back and address the child who's fussy or has lost a toy or a pacifier or something like that, because then you become the distracted driver. They're very concerned about their legs hitting the back if they are getting too tall, but children are incredibly flexible and they can make themselves comfortable. I only wish an adult could squat as many times as a child can. That would be wonderful.
So it sounds like the bottom line is there are certain things you should do when putting a child in a car seat, and the protection of the head and spine are really the most important things.
Correct. And get them from point A to point B safely.
So what are some of the concerns when you have a child who suddenly is changed to front facing, and what about when you have multiple children? That must get complicated.
Multiple children? No. I mean, different cars fit different types of seats. That's why the best seat fits your vehicle, your child, and is used correctly. And if you're putting 3 big car seats in a small car, then that's going to make a difference in how. And then you've got the older child who might be in a booster seat. And, I'm going to advocate for that child and say, they're excited, they're going someplace. If they're buckled in a booster seat that's appropriate for their height, weight, and age, then they're excited, they unbuckle themselves, but they may also unbuckle whoever's in the middle because they're there, they're excited, they go to unbuckle. It's not them. They unbuckle the next one, and that is them, but the first one was now their sibling. So just kind of being, vigilant and checking their car seats and not assuming that your child's always old enough and knows better, as a parent, just kind of helping them guide them through that.
I think it's common for young parents, especially bringing the baby home for the first time and the seat is rear facing. They get nervous about the baby smothering, and it's just a concern that they have. That must be something that you hear a lot.
Well, it's not so much that we hear about it, but I know that there are things out there that they will sell people. There are car seat covers that a lot of people feel that they need to have to keep the babies warm this time of year, and they are not safe.
So what's a car seat cover?
A car seat cover is normally some form of a blanket that has either an elastic edging that goes around the car seat for infant seats to keep the children warm, or there's one that's goes below this harness and then flips over and above, almost like a sleeping bag for the car seat. Again, not safe because they alter the harness. There's a lot of stuff on it that covers the face. If a baby is too warm in the car, that's just as bad as being too cold in the car. So really and truly, a child in their proper clothing, again, being their outfit, a sweater, in their harness with a blanket on top, the car warms up, and then you can remove the blanket. Whereas those other things, we're not apt to remove. There are a lot of, safety concerns. Toys hanging from handles. That's another one. They're just bopping your little ones in the face. They're not really playing with them. Car seat manufacturers don't want you to use them in that fashion. They are just for travel.
Now, obviously, these companies are trying to market their products to young parents, and a lot of them have bells and whistles, and they can get very complicated. Do you need the bells and whistles?
No, you do not need bells and whistles. My little story goes with, if you buy a $50 car seat and a $300 car seat, if you use the $50 one right and the $300 one wrong because it has all these bells and whistles, which is the proper car seat. It's the $50 one that you're using correctly to keep your child safe in the vehicle.
So we've talked a lot about the importance of putting the car seat in the back seat. What about cars that don't have back seats? Because that is the case with some, especially like pickup trucks. What do you do in those situations? A
pickup truck, you should just be aware of the airbags. Airbags have to be turned off for a rear-facing car seat. That's very important for that baby, because if that bag comes out at 300 pounds of pressure per second, and that hits the back of the seat, it's going to drive that seat into the vehicle seat. So therefore, with a pickup truck, making sure that airbag is off. Let's face it, people can't go buy a new vehicle just because they have a new baby. And so you have to kind of travel with what you've got. But there are ways to make it the best you can in your circumstances. The best place for a child, though, if you have a vehicle that's a car or an SUV style or van, is the back seat middle. And that is the furthest from impact, no matter where you should have impact, and therefore the baby's the safest riding in the center.
You're listening to Southern Maine Healthcare's Medically Speaking with Robert Erickson. My guest today is Rebecca Sevigney, a certified childbirth educator from SMHC's Birthing Suite. And we'll be right back with Rebecca after this quick message.
Not every boo-boo is an emergency, but it still feels like one. That's why Southern Maine Healthcare offers walk-in care. You'll find compassionate care at wonderfully convenient locations. Open 7 days a week, no appointment necessary. For those times when the unexpected happens, or you're just not feeling great, look for the orange ball as your sign of the best walk-in care. In Kennebunk, Saco, Waterboro, and Sanford, Southern Maine Healthcare, a member of Maine Health.
And we're back talking with Rebecca Sevigney from SMHC's Birthing Suite. Obviously, car seats aren't cheap, and a lot of times you might have a friend who has one. Maybe they had a baby 10 years ago. What's your advice on people using used car seats?
Used car seats can be used if they're from your older child and they're still within the expiration date. Car seats do expire. They normally have about a 6 to 8 year time frame. Every manufacturer does a little bit something different. It's written clearly on the seat itself. Used car seats from like a consignment shop, a friend's friend's friend, are not recommended because you don't know the history of the car seat, if it's been in a car crash, if it has all its parts, things like that. So truly the best is to purchase a new seat for your family, keep it through your childbearing years if you have enough children to go through that 6 year time frame. If not, then destroy that seat. And when I say destroy it, I truly mean that. Cut it all up, break it up. Don't let somebody else use it.
So maybe, Rebecca, walk us through a checklist of how to make sure that your baby is properly seated into the car seat. Is there a checklist that they should have?
Reading the manual will help. Installing your child properly and installing the seat properly into your vehicle. Using the correct harness, slot tightness, the chest clip being at armpit level.
Now, obviously, a brand new baby, just born at the hospital, you're taking them home. They're very different from a 6 or 7 month in terms of size. Walk us through the process of getting the baby home.
The head roll that normally comes with the infant car seats oftentimes are too wide, and therefore they're not really supporting the newborn. So towel rolls or blanket rolls, so bringing 2 extra receiving blankets to the hospital is a really good thing because we have you support. Roll them up like little tubes. You support them on the sides of the baby. Each side gets one. You start at the head level, you tuck it down beside them, and then you push it towards their cheeks just to help support their head in a nice upright position. The head's upright, they're breathing well. If their head is all flopped over to one side or another, they're not breathing so well. And with them being rear-facing and us not being able to watch them, an open airway is a good thing.
Now, why do you need to recline a seat for a newborn?
Reclining the seat into a proper angle is very helpful too because it allows the baby a newborn to lay back further. They're not we don't want them laying flat because they could eject from the car seat, but laying back does help with the open airway. Babies don't sit up yet at newborn level until they're about 3 to 5 months old, and then most car seats, the base has a different level angle that you can adjust to help support them in that way.
Now, you've said more than once that the head is obviously the biggest part of an infant's body. At what point does the neck strengthen so that isn't as much of an issue?
Their necks are normally stronger somewhere around the age 2, when the spine and the skull fuse and their muscles are stronger. But again, keeping them backwards longer lets them mature that much longer and therefore become stronger. The statement that's best practice for people is to stay rear-facing to the upper weight limit of a rear-facing car seat. And it's the weight or height limit.
What are the kind of dangerous mistakes that you worry about when new parents are taking a newborn home from the hospital?
A dangerous mistake would be holding your child in your lap. And different cultures still believe that that's okay. But here in the United States, we definitely have laws that encourage child safety. And being in that car seat is a better spot for that baby.
And that's even if they're restrained behind a seatbelt with you? Now, why is that a problem?
Because that baby, you cannot hold a baby with more than a 10, 15 mile an hour impact force. Your instincts in that split second of time is to squeeze, but then there's a release when the impact happens and that child would go flying, either into the dashboard or if the airbag would hit the child. There are lots of different things that these days holding a baby in your arms is not, it never really was an appropriate way to travel, but now with cars being what they are too, you have so many more safety features that could actually injure somebody if you're not, in fact, in the car correctly too.
And I'm guessing your weight could crush the baby as well.
Absolutely.
Now, what other kind of dangerous mistakes can people make?
Oftentimes the harness isn't in the correct harness strap slot, and it's too high or too low, so it's not keeping the child properly secure. the chest clip not being high enough and keeping it so that the harness stays closed over the shoulders. The chest clip should be armpit level. And something to think about is when we say chest level, there's a wide range of how many inches is your chest, and every baby is different. So stating armpit level is probably the better resource. And when you think about where all of our armpits are, and your baby's is too, it's above their chest. So keeping it at armpit level is the best place for that chest clip. And then again, adding aftermarket products to a car seat is definitely not. An aftermarket product is anything that comes from a store that you can add to a car seat. If it is not made by that car seat manufacturer, it's probably not approved by them, and therefore it should not be in or on your car seat. Another safety issue is using your car seat in a grocery cart. That is a huge no-no. If someone hits your cart, it is coming off, and your child is in it. Hopefully your child is at least buckled into it, and maybe some lesser effects will happen, but it really does not belong. There is no car seat manufacturer out there who approves the fact that you can use a child infant seat in a grocery cart.
Now, a lot of the things you've been talking about with the car seat would apply to other things. You just mentioned the grocery cart, stroller, and that the weight of the head obviously needs to be supportive. Does this apply to other things?
A good open airway is very important. Be it if they're sleeping and they're all curled over, that's not a good thing. It's the same with crib safety is another. We don't want them on their bellies, because of breathing. We want them on their back.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because with the recent SIDS information that has come out, I think it's now common knowledge you don't want to put your baby on its belly. Maybe talk a little bit about why the thinking has changed on that.
The change of thinking on that is that by laying a child on their back to sleep, they don't fall quite as deep asleep, and they remember to breathe. And the other piece is that there's nothing to affect their airway. There's no added bumper pads. There's no added toys. There's no added big blankets. The safest way for your child to sleep is in a crib, laying flat on their back, preferably a sleep sack or just heavier pajamas that zip on. No blankets, no toys, no pillows, no bumper pads. Bumper pads were invented years and years ago because kids were falling out through the cracks of their cribs. Children don't do that anymore. Crib slats are 2 3/8 inches wide. They don't fall through them. That is not a necessary piece of your nursery anymore.
Now, we talked earlier about not having a lot of bells and whistles, that those aren't really necessary with your car seat. Talk a little bit about other things, maybe a child playing with a ribbon or something else in the car that could be a danger.
You shouldn't have extras with the car seat merely because, the hope is that the child will fall asleep in the car or just enjoy the ride. And there are so many different hazards to different car seat, different toys and things that you could be sticking in there. For instance, if you just gave them a teddy bear that had a long ribbon and that child was sucking on that ribbon, they may not choke on that ribbon, but it will go down their throat. And then when you go to pull that child out, there's a ribbon sitting there that you now need to pull out of them. It's dangerous. You don't want to have something like that. Chewing little eyes, noses off stuffed animals, those types of things. Those aren't very helpful in a ride that you're not watching these little people. And they do get into trouble. You don't want to encourage that. So nothing around is the better.
So why do babies put things in their mouth?
Oh, because it's fun and they're learning, and that's just another phase of development to have that oral stimulation of hand in mouth and then foot in mouth and then toy in mouth and then food in mouth, and that's all part of our learning process. So
it seems like at that age it could be a common thing for a child to start choking on something that they might ingest.
Correct. Even for instance, I said the best place for a child was rear-facing in the center of a vehicle. But if you have 2 children and one is a 2-year-old who thinks she's doing a really good thing by sharing and decides to share her French fries with her newborn sister, newborns don't eat French fries. And so that 2-year-old is feeling that she's doing something nice to her new baby and she's sharing. And when you get home and find a French fry hanging out of your newborn's mouth, that's probably not a safe thing. And your 2-year-old is as proud as can be because she was being good and sharing. How can you yell at, there's that added piece of separation for older children because sharing is good, but it may not be necessary.
So how do you deal with that with the 2-year-old?
Separating the children in the car is probably the better, putting a newborn on the passenger side, your older child on the driver's side, so that there's that little bit of space so that 2-year-old actually can't reach the newborn is probably the better.
Now, at the top of the show, you told us that you've been doing this a long time. Maybe tell us a little bit about some success stories you've had in people who properly installed car seats, et cetera, and they survived a car crash.
We had a couple one time that they were on their way to New York State for Thanksgiving, and she had said that she had just gone to a car seat checkup event and learned that she had her base installed incorrectly. And so they fixed it for her, and how grateful she was, because when they were on the highway, she said they hit black ice. The van rolled 5 times into a ditch. Thankfully, someone was behind them who pulled over, and she said, I woke up to look at my husband, who was severely injured, myself, who was injured, but hearing this incredibly calm older man talking to my baby and having her laugh. And she said that laughter, the giggling, is what made me come to more, I think. And she said, and he put his hand on my shoulder and said, it's okay. Here we are upside down in our van. My child is so safely restrained in her car seat that man had her laughing, and she literally had a bruise on her thigh from the entire crash. Absolutely amazing. And she said, if I hadn't had that car seat and had her properly installed in it, that never would have happened. She said, my husband and I were in the hospital for a couple of weeks. We both survived. We're both doing fine. But our little one at 4 months old went home with our parents.
That's a great story. Probably couldn't be a better story to demonstrate the importance of car seat safety. As we wrap up here, why don't you tell us about, if people want to find out more information at SMHC, where can they go to get some information about car seat safety?
Well, we do have a program called Safe Travels, and we'd be happy to, it's a one night every other month. If you have your car seat, bring it with you. We ask you to bring your car seat if you have it, but don't go purchase one. The manual to your vehicle, and we show a wonderful movie from Enjoy Videos. We have another one that we sometimes show from Safety Belt Safe that helps to inform people on why it's so important to install their car seats correctly. We have the Dial-A-Belt, that seat simulator that we can have everyone practice. We have dolls that we give them to install a baby correctly in their seats and give them guidance on their specific seat and how to use it properly. And then you can always call and make an appointment. Be happy to meet with people. Bedford Police Department here in town locally offers a car seat check as well, but they, again, do it by appointment. They have a few police officers who are very happy to help keep children safe.
And if someone's in another community, how do you recommend that they get information about car seat safety?
I would recommend that they check with their local fire department or police department, see if they have any certified technicians that can help. Statewide, sometimes they offer in different communities car seat checkup events. Oftentimes, like the YMCA will do an event like that. And again, local fire departments will. Those are always free. They're very informational, well worth your time.
And what if you can't afford a car seat?
If you can't afford a car seat, a lot of the local Bureau of Highway Safety offers a program for a voucher seat program. And Maine taxpayers support this program through the Bureau of Highway Safety so that if you can't afford a car seat, one can be given to you.
Now, as far as the internet goes, besides smhc.org, is there another site that people can go to in Maine to get information about these resources?
tallpinesafety.org is a great resource. safekids.org is another. They can lead you to a certified technician to be able to help you out in installing these car seats or possibly even getting a free car seat. You need to be income eligible for that free car seat, but they'll walk you through that.
Well, we've run out of time for this week. My guest today has been Rebecca Sevigney, a certified childbirth educator from SMHC's Birthing Suite. Rebecca, thank you for sharing some time with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you for getting the information out.
Join me next week at this time for a new guest and an enlightening discussion about healthcare in our communities, brought to you exclusively by Southern Maine Healthcare, your trusted resource for healthcare in Southern Maine.